Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining us this afternoon for our New Year, New Union for School Leaders webinar. It's fantastic to see everyone. It'd be even nicer if we could all get together and see everyone face to face, but that's not always possible in these trying times. My name is Mark Cornell and I'm Chief of Staff at Nht. And I'm joined by Guy Dudley, Nht's advice curator, who has many years of experience of directly giving guidance and advice to our members, along with many other experiences I'm sure we may talk about a little later. And also by Fiona Hims, who's an ex-head teacher and now Nht's educational content executive, who's going to help us facilitate any questions we may have later in the call. Now, we'd like to make this call quite light and cover any particular subjects you'd like us to in order to help you make any decisions you may wish to about being a member of a union and which union is right for you. And obviously, we hope the right union for you is Nht, the School Leaders Union. Quite often we don't get time to think about our union membership. And I've spoken to lots of leaders over the years who've joined a teaching union when they were in training. And I'm sure many of you did that for £1 or whatever the special offer was at the time. You joined the teaching union, you went through your training, you continued with that union. I'm sure they served you exceptionally well. And many leaders don't even realise that once they become a mid-leader or a senior leader, then actually there is a leadership union available to them that is right for their needs as a leader as opposed to a teacher. So if you're one of those people, don't worry, you're not alone. There are hundreds, if not thousands of leaders that are still in teaching unions. And hopefully we can help you make the right choice for yourself today. So in a short while, I'm going to talk through some of the benefits of being with the Leaders Union, and then we'll open up for a Q&A, any questions you might have, and we're happy to take questions on anything. But first, just for a little bit of light fun, let me hand you over to Guy, who's going to take us through a little quiz. But don't worry, you won't be marked. Guy.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome everybody. My name's Guy Dudley, and I'm going to be joined in a moment by my colleague Fiona Hims. Yeah, we'd like to take you through this sort of short quiz, really to test your school leadership knowledge. Nht is a trade union for school leaders, head teachers and deputies and assistants and other leaders. And some of the things that we're going to be asking you are some of the very topics that regularly are asked by school leaders on our advice line. And therefore we thought it would be quite good fun to start off with a quiz. We will give you the answers once Fiona's asked the question. And just in case any of you are wondering, we are going to be sending a document out probably tomorrow, but as soon as we can after this webinar, with all the information that will be covered in this webinar, including the questions and answers, some of the information that Mark will follow you through, and we'll make sure you get that very shortly, 24 or 48 hours after the end of the webinar. So we're going to start off with a quiz. No need for you to press any buttons or interact with technology. We'll just give you a few seconds to think about the answer, and then I'll give you the answer. Only 10 questions, so we'll make them quite sort of quick and rapid fire. But I thought it'd be quite good to start off with this particular exercise. So Fiona, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Guy. And I'll start with our first question this afternoon, which is, what are the statutory entitlements for head teachers' well-being? So they're very much a question of the moment. And just to, if you would like to just jot down what you know about the statutory entitlements for head teachers' well-being.
And this is a question we get asked quite often, and it's often unknown that head teachers are entitled to well-being, and it's a statutory entitlement. So the very fact that they're entitled is often brings a smile to their face. Well, I'll give you the answer, and if anyone wants to pop the answers into our chat box, then please do so. But head teachers are entitled to what's called a reasonable amount of time to discharge their leadership and management responsibilities. That also includes a daily break, but of course head teachers, and that's of reasonable length. Typical language of probably a lawyer drawn up document called the School Teachers Terms and Conditions document, but head teachers are entitled to a daily break of reasonable length in the course of each school day, but of course they must arrange for a suitable person to deputise for them during that break. So they are entitled, it's a statutory entitlement to a reasonable length in the course of each school day.
Okay, moving on to question 2 now. A question you will no doubt be sort of considering during this particular time of the school year. What are the minimum and maximum temperatures for school classrooms? What are the minimum and maximum temperatures for school classrooms?
Quite relevant at the moment, Fiona, isn't it, with the ventilation programs going on at this coldest time of year. Typical, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, some of you may be old enough to remember that there used to be minimum and maximum temperatures. They were introduced in 1999, but were abolished under David Cameron's government of 2012. So there are no minimum and maximum temperatures for school classrooms. There are only recommendations, and those recommendations are a minimum of 16 degrees centigrade by the Health and Safety Executive, and a maximum of 24 centigrade by the World Health Organization. And I said, those of you who are old enough will remember that there used to be temperatures of 15, 18 and 21, depending whether you were in the gym, the classroom or the sick bay. And that ages me and probably Fiona and possibly others on the call. I'll end there, Fiona.
Okay, best time to stop, I think. So moving swiftly on to question 3. So many of the questions that we received to our advice line are from members involving sort of management of parents and carers on schools. So this question is, can parents come into school premises without consent? Or parents and carers, can they come onto your school premises without consent?
Yes, this is a very common question we get on a regular basis. And it is a yes or no answer. And the answer's no. Although schools fulfill a public function, they are in law considered to be private places. So the public have no right of entry at all onto school premises. And it's up to schools, each individual school, to set out and define the extent of access and to alert parents through newsletters, the website. Very common, of course, in primary school settings to allow parents onto the school playground. But the question was, can they come on without consent? The answer is no, although many parents would like to think the answer's yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to question 4. Again, quite topical in terms of the term we're working in at the moment. On what grounds can a school be closed in the event of sudden and high snowfall? On what grounds can a school be closed in the event of sudden and high snowfall?
Is that related to the earlier question about heating, perhaps?
Perhaps.
I mean, obviously this is a seasonal question. Because if it's going to happen roughly around January, February time when we get most of our snow in this country or elsewhere in the UK. But I think it's, and only head teachers can close the school. No one else can. And yes, you can close the school, but it's important to understand that the grounds upon which you can close the school isn't staff welfare or the well-being of children. It's not safeguarding, as some people like to think it is, but it's health and safety. So the grounds for closing a school in the event of snowfall are health and safety grounds, and it's important if that happens, that's recorded at your school.
Thank you, Guy. Moving on to question 5. little bit more complex, this one, but hopefully you'll be able to answer this. So can parents and employees record conversations with school leaders? Can parents and employees record conversations with school leaders?
Yes, mobile phones, eh?
Yeah, and we're thinking in that one, I think, Guy, aren't we, about not just head teachers, but also members of the senior leadership team with whom parents and carers may have more interaction.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And parents' evenings, all sorts of meetings with individual parents. So can parents and employees record conversations with school leaders? The answer is yes, they can. But as you said, Fiona, it's a little more complicated because yes, they can, but there are conditions. And those conditions are that the recording is for their personal use. And let me give you a couple of examples. It's important that people understand on the call that it's either for convenience, because it may be a long meeting and you just can't remember all that was said. It may be that English is not your first language. So English is your second language. But parents, if they do record that, as I said, can do that for personal use. If a parent then shares that conversation, recording information, with a third party, say a solicitor or a lawyer, because it thinks it will increase their chances of success in a particular dispute with a school, they will have broken the school's code of practice. So it's important that schools have a code of practice on this matter that suggests that these calls are recordings are only for personal use. And they can get around it by schools by simply producing a transcript of the meeting, normally within a short period of time, so that gets around the whole recording issue. But at the end of the day, they can still record it, but subject to those conditions.
Thank you, Guy. Question 6. Can I reduce the school week at my school to 4.5 days? Can I reduce the school week at my school to 4.5 days?
And this was a question that really came up when the COVID hit, and schools wanted to close for half a day to give it a good deep clean. And a lot of people wanted to reduce the school to 3 days, 3.5, 4, 4.5. But 4.5 is the minimum that you could actually reduce the school day, school week to. So the answer is yes, you can reduce the school week to 4.5 days, and you've been able to do so since 2011. The two principal reasons why people never do it, or rarely do it rather, is that I think they would face a parental revolt, because it's always the Friday afternoon, which would be the half day that the schools would close, where parents would typically expect their children to be at school. And secondly, it's just completely impractical to do so, because Friday would then be concertinaed into half a day. This is all covered in law. So if you wanted to do it, you can do it, and some schools have done it, because you have to be open for so many days of the year. But interestingly, the regulations, Fiona, don't actually state how long a school day has to be for. They are simply what they are because of tradition, convenience, and parental expectation. So there's quite a lot of legislation around this, but yes, you can do it. But on all of these matters, on all of these questions, we have written advice, normally 4 to 6 pages in length, on our website. And if you were to join, you can obviously have access to those with immediate effect and unconditionally. So, and that's another one covered by a fairly good advice piece.
And I think it's also perhaps worth mentioning, Guy, that, you know, it's important that we represent, you know, school leaders from all types of schools. So, you know, whether you're working in a special school or an all-through school, independent sector, faith school, you know, what we do is to really provide advice to all those aspects of education, really. And I think that's important to mention with that one particularly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, and as part of our CPD offer in terms of our webinars, we're at the moment shaping our summer CPD program. Our spring one, you will have seen if you have a look at our website, has just been launched. We do get sort of quite a few requests for support around particular HR sort of complex questions, and the next two really are, you know, in that area. So moving on to question 7. When can an employee ask for flexible working, and do they have to provide a reason when they make their request?
Yeah, I mean, a great question. And the next two really have come about because of people returning to work from long periods of absence. And flexible working is shrouded in mystery, but actually it's very simple. It's very straightforward. I think it's easier for listeners to think anything that's flexible working is something that isn't full-time permanent employment. So if you reduce your working hours by half an hour or an hour, that would be a flexible working request. So to answer the question, and flexible working, all employers have been able to ask for flexible working since 2014. It's been around for pretty much best part of 10 years now. The only condition is that they have to have 26 or more weeks of continuous employment to make an application. So that's the condition. And they do not have to provide a specific reason for their request. Most do, but lawfully they do not have to provide a reason for their specific flexible working request.
Okay, thank you very much. Question 8. Does a school have to make reasonable adjustments if requested? Does a school have to make reasonable adjustments if requested?
Again, this question comes up regularly, and particularly in light of people returning to work after a long period of absence, especially if they're suffering from a medical condition. And reasonable adjustments can be temporary or permanent. But the answer is, does a school have to make them? No, they don't. Where it's not practicable for the school to do so, where it's not cost effective, where it won't overcome the disadvantage of the staff member, and where it impacts unfavorably on others, the school can legitimately and rightly decline a request. Our advice always at the NHT has been, rather than face a request that you're absolutely prepared to decline, if you know you're going to decline it, perhaps it'd be good to go back to the requester to ask them to modify it, the request, so that you can sort of meet them halfway. So good old British compromise on reasonable adjustments, Fiona.
Which is often the output from lots of discussions that school leaders have with employees, I think. So, yeah. Okay, so moving on to question 9. What are the 5 legitimate reasons for dismissing an employee? What are the 5 legitimate reasons for dismissing an employee?
Yeah, and of course, this is our bread and butter business in many ways. Only a head teacher can dismiss. A deputy can't, an assistant can't, only a head teacher can dismiss. And they often know why, but they're often unaware of the other reasons why they can as well. So there are 5 of them. The first one is capability, and that can be health or performance related. Conduct, so effectively behaviour. The behaviour of a member of staff is so unacceptable that makes their employment untenable. Redundancy counts as a dismissal in law, where a member of staff has broken the law, and as a result of that, their employment becomes untenable. And the one that I love and lawyers love, and no doubt you will have come across this, Fiona, in your time as a head teacher, some other substantial reason, also known as SOSR. And typically, this is where there has been an irretrievable breakdown of working relationships. That's the one that people don't really know about, and ironically it's the most common reason why people are dismissed. So those are the 5, and again we have a very good document on our advice hub outlining all of those and when you might choose to consider dismissing an employee.
Okay, thank you very much. And moving swiftly on to question 10. I hope you're all doing well with these. I hope you are writing something down. A quick fire question to finish off with, because I'm sure that all our listeners will know this. When is the census date for the spring term? When is the census date for the spring term?
Well, those of you in those roles will know there's a census date in each term throughout the year: autumn, spring and summer. And the spring census date is actually, and I hope we don't lose too many callers when I tell them, it's actually today. But it means that you have to return it by the 16th of February. But the census date for the spring term is actually today, Thursday, the 20th of January, for return on the 16th of February. We very cunningly put these dates in our what we call back to school document. So each year I produce a document late August, early September, called Back to School, and then the academic year date. And in that document I pretty much set out all the key dates and all the key events that any good practicing head teacher would want to note in their diary. They've probably got them in there, but this is a sort of safety checklist in the event that they may need to. So census date is today. And I hope we haven't lost too many people on the call because of that.
Running off to do their census.
Well, that concludes the quiz. And I hope it was a good session that sort of just tested your knowledge of those areas of activity that as school leaders we think you ought to know as your trade union, and they're all supported with advice on our advice hub on our website. So thanks for listening, and I hope you scored well.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Fiona. I certainly learned something, and I'm sure most people on the call knew more answers than I did. That's for sure. But I certainly learned something. But no, it's hard, isn't it? Actually, because even when you reach that stage in your career where you become consciously competent, someone comes along and changes the rules and forgets to tell you, or you miss an email, or you miss that really important memo. So we always need somewhere to go to ensure that we're up to date before we make that big decision that we need to do, or potentially make the big mistake we really don't want to make. And I think that leads me nicely on to the benefits of being in a union for school leaders. So moving on from that, thank you, Guy. Thank you, Fiona. I think many people think a union's a place to go when they need to. So, for example, when allegations are made about them, and of course it is. But as a leaders' union, it's far more than that, so much more than that. Yes, we're here to protect you and your employment. And the start point for that is to ensure that you have guidance and advice to keep you out of trouble. Make sure that guidance and advice is there when you need it. And Guy's just given us a very, very small fraction of the guidance and advice that's available, and that's always relevant, is always up to date, and is always assured that it's correct and accurate. And we have a community of people at the end of the phone lines to do nothing other than support leaders with any questions. Any concerns, any worries they may have, they are there to talk to all day long. Each member of our advice team, very highly trained, and they're specialists. And you'd be guided through to the right person to help you. And these individuals come with a range of backgrounds, from lawyers, accountants, HR professionals, and of course people that have held leadership roles across schools. So really valuable people with really valuable skills that can absolutely support you on a day-by-day basis. And during the day, these individuals will quickly help you with your concerns. They're always there. But during the night, we have specialist counsellors. And as we know, sometimes things build up over the day and kind of reach a crescendo when we're perhaps sitting at home having a glass of wine, if we participate in a glass of wine for an evening, and things can really get to us. So we have a set of specialist counsellors that are available at the end of the phone 24/7. And if you really need to speak to someone in the evening, they're absolutely there to help calm you down, help you think rationally, and support you. So we are always there as your union, whether it's during the day helping you with technical things, helping inquiries and queries, or whether it's out of normal working hours in the evening and middle of the night when you just really need someone to help calm you down and support you and see you through to the next day. For me, the biggest thing about advice is that it's aimed at leaders and leaders alone. But we don't just want you to sit here and wait for you to ask. We don't want to sit here and wait for you to pick up the phones and ring us. If it's time critical, it's often needed there and then. And you want people pushing information and pushing action out to you when you really need to do it. And we're really good at distributing stuff, but we don't just distribute reams and reams and reams of guidance and advice. We push out stuff in a helpful manner at the right time for you. And we've got so many examples of this over the last 18 months, 2 years, as we've been through the awful COVID situation when government and DfE are pushing rules out, changing guidelines, pushing new rules out, changing the guidelines again, and it's constantly happening. And as leaders in education, how are you meant to keep up with that? Well, actually, by being a member of Nht, that really helps keeping up with that. We work closely with the DfE. We often know in advance what they're about to publish, and in fact, often we've helped them write what they're going to publish as well. And that means that normally, within a few hours of new rules being published, Nht writes to its members with clarity over what it means to them and their schools. Now, how valuable is it? How valuable would it be to you if someone turns around a 30-page document from the DfE and turns it into a one-pager articulating what you need to do different tomorrow from today as a result of it? And that's what we deliver. Depending on the publication time and the size of it, we normally have out clarity the same day or early the next morning. And that's really useful. And that's been invaluable to so many of our members over the last 18 months at least, and a lot longer for other subjects. Our guidance and advice is truly, in my opinion, absolutely second to none. And I speak to a lot of leaders in education. I go to a lot of exhibitions, a lot of roadshows, and I talk with a lot of people. And when I talk to our members about the guidance and advice they've had compared to people in other unions, it's chalk and cheese. It really is strong guidance and advice, and it is aimed solely at leaders. But sometimes things are more serious. And you do need to see one of our professional full-time regional officers to meet with you and talk things through. Sometimes we do need to meet face-to-face and talk more serious things through. And our regional officers are full-time. They're not part-time people. They're not teachers who are also union members. These are full-time union officials that come out and visit our members when they really need to. They don't do anything other than protect our members. It is their full-time job. They're highly trained and they're backed by both in-house and third-party solicitors and lawyers to ensure the best outcomes for our members. They only deal with leaders, and that means that our regional officers know your challenges. They've probably seen your challenges a dozen times, if not more, and they look at those challenges through your eyes. So they're talking to you as a leader, and they really understand that. And I think that's a real benefit of being with a leaders union. But sometimes it's not professional help that you need from union people. And it's actually just to talk with someone else that understands your role and understands the challenges it brings. And perhaps bounce ideas off them and let them bounce ideas back to you. And we support this. We think it's critical. We run a real strong network of branches and regions across England, Wales and Northern Ireland, and our branches are very active. And our branch secretary is always delighted to welcome new members and introduce them to fellow leaders in the area and help enable those conversations. If actually you're perhaps new to your role and it's a little bit more than a conversation you want, maybe it's mentoring, we offer a fantastic mentoring platform where we connect together electronically perhaps established CEOs or head teachers with new or aspiring CEOs or head teachers and put them through a mentoring process, which many of our members find really attractive and a great benefit of being part of our union. But of course, not everything is about face-to-face and telephone conversations. Unfortunately, most of us don't have time for the luxury of speaking to people face-to-face or even over the phone sometimes. So we try to make it easy for our members to access all of our advice, and it is all available online, and it's available on an advice hub, which is actually currently being developed to better support people of different abilities, to make it even easier for people to access it. And perhaps, for example, people that are hard of sight or hard of hearing, we're making it much easier for them to access our advice as well, which is absolutely critical. As a union, we lobby and discuss on our members' behalf constantly. We help shape education policy and practice, and we have the ear of the DfE, Ofsted, dare I say even number 10. But we don't do this in isolation. Our lobbying insights come from our members. One of our core values is voice, as we call it. We are fiercely independent, and we're not politically aligned, and we'll be the voice of school leaders without fear or favour. Currently, we're campaigning on a whole host of subjects, but subjects like funding, pay, workload, things that are really important to school leaders and obviously our members as school leaders. Nht is the largest union for leaders. Many people that I speak to have started as teachers with perhaps a teaching union, the NEU or one of the other teaching unions, and have moved through. They've been in leadership roles for several years, and they say to me, well, I've never actually heard of Nht. Nht has actually been around for 125 years this year, so it's been around a long time, and it is in fact the largest union for leaders. We have over 47,000 members, of which 35,000 are actively performing leaders' roles like yours in schools with titles like CEO, COO, HRD, head teacher, head of school, deputies, assistants, school business leaders, and a range of mid-leaders like Senkos, for example. And we offer all the services I've spoken about to help keep them informed, assured, and protected. But Nht offers a lot more to its members. Talked about guidance and advice, and Fiona mentioned our professional development earlier. It's one of our highly used services for our members. We do charge for some courses, but actually lots of what we do is free to all of our members, and we have many courses and conferences. They're all of the highest standard, and we receive absolutely excellent feedback on all of them, including one of our showcase products, which is called Nht Discovery Education Pathway, which is an online program to really support you at whatever level you are, develop your career, develop yourself, and have that constant development. And that product's aimed at everybody in the school, from part-time teaching assistants right the way through to the top leadership roles and everyone in between. And we ensure that when we develop these products, whether it's our own in-house products or we develop them with partners, they are developed at the right price for schools as well. We know it's not always easy to get the budget for personal development for yourselves or your colleagues. So we try to get those price points right that will really support you to be able to take on the opportunity. And one of the things I'm most proud of as well about how we support our members is thinking about our members' mental health. And mental health may be at the top of some associations' agendas now, but it's been at the top of our agenda for a long time. The mental health of our members is key to us, it's critical, and it sits at the top of our agenda. And right the way through the pandemic, we've been offering free wellbeing products to all of our members and their whole teaching staff. From free wellbeing webinars, which have been running pretty much every other week all the way through the pandemic, through to school visits by professional psychologists, nurses, doctors to support all staff, all of which is free to both the member and the school. And we've been doing that for a long time, right the way through the pandemic, and many of our members have taken us up on those services, and they've added extreme value to them and their schools. And we offer our members other top quality products for themselves and their schools at discounted rates. For example, our Nht Wellness and Protect product. It's a sick absence product at its heart, but it's a proactive wellbeing product. And by that, I mean that instead of you paying for an insurance product for your school and just waiting to claim if someone goes sick, actually, once you sign for this insurance product, we send wellness experts into your school regularly to help and support the school. We ensure that helplines are available to help with all of your staff's mental well-being and health and their physical well-being and health. And the concept being is, if we invest into the well-being of the staff, then they're less likely to go sick. And that's worked really well. And actually, throughout the pandemic, to our knowledge, our product is the only product that's paid out on every single COVID-related case. And that's great. You know, it may be really hard to find cover teachers at the moment, impossible in many cases, but at least it's good to know if you do find one, the money's available to pay them. And that's what we like to ensure for our members. Lots of other great products as well. Lufta is a great organisation that we work with. They invite students to experience a world of human stories to broaden their horizons, to using 3D technology, and all NHT members can trial this free at their schools. Another great benefit for NHT members. And lots of other quality products for schools as well, which I'm not going to list off. And if you have interest, you can go to our website and you can see some of those great products. Most of those products talked about products that as a member you get a benefit for your school, which is great. But also we offer products that give many benefits to you personally. For example, our Nht Extras program, which gives discounts at most high street retailers and loads of online retailers. We like to think our members can get their membership fees back in discounts alone, let alone the value that we offer to them. And stores such as John Lewis, Waitrose, Sainsbury's, B&Q's, Currys, ASOS, and a whole load more offer really significant discounts to NHT members. And many of our members do get at least their membership fees back each month, if not a lot more. And a member I was speaking to recently who moved house saved himself £3,000 when he moved his house when he had to replace his kitchen white goods. So that's a fantastic benefit. So talking about money, we can save discounts as you save our membership fees. How much is it to be a member of NHT? Well, memberships actually start from £14.75 per month. We have membership categories, and £14.75 is the fee for mid leaders. Assistant heads £20.40, deputies £29, and heads and CEOs and other people in that kind of category £36.70 per month. Really good value, and if perhaps you're in another union at the moment, a teaching union still, and you think about that in terms of value that you'd get and the differential from getting all of the insight you need as a leader, getting the advice and guidance when you need it in real time as a leader, as well as the proactive guidance and advice being sent to you as a leader, and the individual perks and benefits of being in the association, I think you'll find that's really for good value. But what do our existing members say about it? We survey our members regularly to ensure that we are doing the right things for them, and we listen to the feedback. And in our most recent survey, 98% of NHT members said they were satisfied with NHT. And that's actually the highest level of satisfaction of any education union. And 90% of our members said they would recommend a colleague to join us. Now, you can't get a higher recommendation than that. 90% of our members would recommend a colleague or friend to come and join us. And I think that's brilliant. And I think that defines who we are as a union. We are a union that is there for its members, and we do listen to our members. We do take our members' views seriously. We do take those views into our lobbying campaigns. We do take those views into the way that we serve our members to deliver the right products and right services for our members as well. So with that, I'm conscious that we've talked with you for about 40 odd minutes now and had a good fun survey. Perhaps, Fiona, we should open up and see if we've got any questions.
Lovely. Okay, Mark, thank you very much. So we're just going to open to the floor now, whether you'd like to place, just to post your questions in the chat. We've got a reasonable sized group, so if you wanted to ask a question verbally, that would be fine too. And just while we're seeing if there are any questions that are coming in, what I'd like to do actually, which might be something to help, is to just post in the chat some of our upcoming CPD, because you may be interested in joining us. There it is. That's our spring flyer for our CPD for this term. There may be something that of interest to you that you could join us on one of our free courses or any other course. So if you wanted to ask us any questions, this would be a good opportunity. We've got a question from Philip coming up about, are there opportunities to attend local branches? So I think that's a very good question. I think what I would say before I hand over to one of my colleagues is that we are working really very closely with our regional teams, and given the situation where we are with the pandemic, we've had lots of feedback from our school leaders that they are much happier to attend events locally, and of course our local regions have different priorities in terms of the support they need from our union. So there are many opportunities to attend local branches, and perhaps I don't know whether Guy would like to say something about how the regional structure works? Or
Sure, I'd love to talk a little bit. Sorry, Guy.
Sorry, Mark. Hand
I'd
over
love to
to
talk a
you.
little bit back, because I think our regional and branch networks are one of the things that we're extremely proud of, and one of the things that's gone from strength to strength over the last few years, and has strengthened even further as we've gone through the pandemic over the last couple of years. So we do break the nations, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, up into a branch network, which feeds into a regional network, and that's part of our democracy and hierarchy. But speaking about the actual attendance at local branches, we have fantastic attendance at our local branches, and they are all leaders. So they're like-minded people who are thinking about the same things, got the same issues on their mind, and those individuals can get together regularly, either face to face in hopefully more normal times, or through sessions like this. They do get together regularly, both informally and formally, and the informal opportunities give great learning and networking opportunities to colleagues, and the more formal get-togethers enable us to run our democracy and feed back through from branch into region and through into our policy and our policy activity, which of course culminates in some big things like our annual general meeting, where we vote on our policy positions for the upcoming year. So it's great opportunities to attend local branch meetings, both in person and virtually.
And I would just add to that, Fiona, if I may. We've got 172 branches, and if you decide to join the NHT, which I very much hope you will, you would be automatically assigned to your local branch, which is chaired by an official who would make contact with you thereafter, and you'd be invited along to their branch meetings in that respect. So that's an automatic entitlement to be affiliated to your local branch.
Thank you, Guy. And we've just posted in the chat there the link for our sort of membership. So if you wanted to take that from the chat today, you may have some more questions that you want to ask us, which is fine too. Have a look at the CPD for this term, because there may be something there that interests you. And I don't think there are any more questions coming in at the moment. So shall I hand back to Mark at this point, I think.
Thank you, Fiona, and thank you again, Guy. Well, thank you everyone for bearing with us this afternoon and listening. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more about NEHT today than you knew before. We only had a short period of time to talk about ourselves, but there is a whole lot more to NEHT, and we would love to have the opportunity to talk further to you. If you'd like to join, as Fiona says, there is a link on the chat now. You'll also receive a follow-up email from us that will have information in it as well, and contact details if you should wish to speak about NHT and further benefits that we offer before making your decision. If you're quick and decide that you do want to join, actually there is an incentive to join us in the next couple of days, and that's an £80 John Lewis voucher if you do join us. Now, I'm sure you wouldn't join a union just for a John Lewis voucher, but it's a great benefit to get when you do join one, and certainly pays for the first 3 or 4 months monthly fees, which is great. So once again, thank you for joining us today. I do hope you're thinking of NEHT in a really positive light. I do hope you consider joining us, and I do hope to see you at one of those branch or regional meetings at some time in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.